They had always told the students not to use room 213 unless absolutely necessary. It was an old classroom in the northwest wing of Clearwater High, left unused for years after the last renovation. No one quite remembered why. The windows were dusty, the ceiling tiles water-stained, the desks scratched and worn, and an old chalkboard hung crooked on the far wall. But one chilly November afternoon, when the autumn wind rattled doors and the sky grew gray, something happened that would make room 213 a name whispered in fearful tones for years. Megan Ramos was a senior, practical, intelligent, one of those students who didn't believe in ghosts. She believed in biology and history and science things you could prove. So when her teacher, Mr. Dalton, asked if anyone could go fetch extra textbooks from the supply closet located next to room 213, she volunteered. The supply closet had been lacking textbooks for the past week. It was cutting into class time. Megan had walked past room 213 many times, always avoiding the door. Something about the darkened frame made her skin crawl, but she pushed on. The hallway was nearly empty, just her footsteps and a faint humming that might have been the air vent. She turned the knob of the supply closet, found stacks of tattered textbooks and boxes of globes wrapped in plastic. As she bent to pick up a heavy box, the humming got louder, low, almost musical, while something like whispering drifted from the hallway. Megan froze. She dared not look. The whispering, faint but persistent, like several voices speaking just out of earshot. No one around. She stood, balancing the box in her arms, and looked toward room 213. The door was ajar. That shouldn't be. It was always locked. The teachers kept the key in Mr. Dalton's desk. Nobody used it. But there it was, slightly open, darkness inside pooling faintly between hallway lights. She shook her head. Probably someone on janitorial staff forgot. Probably nothing. Megan set the box down softly and walked over. The whispering faded as she drew near. She peered in. Nothing but dust motes dancing in shafts of light. The desks were all lined up oddly, some facing walls, others overturned. The chalkboard had been wiped, but the chalkboard tray held a single piece of chalk, fresh white, resting there. Suddenly the door behind her slammed shut. The kick of wind or something else had locked with a click. Megan's heart slammed. She pounded the door, yanked at the handle. Teaching? Teachers? Mr. Dalton? No reply. Whispers returned, clearer this time, as if just beyond her sight. Help me. Find me, she whispered, backing against the door, her breathing loud in her ears. The chalk on the tray grew faint gray letters, but she couldn't make them out until she blinked hard. She watches. Who's there? Megan shouted. No answer. The air turned cold. Her breath became visible, misting. She could hear something scraping lightly across wood one of the overturned desks, maybe like nails dragging along a desk leg. She fumbled her phone screen lit, camera off, trying to take a photo or video. The beam swept across the room, illuminating a figure. A pale shape crouched behind a desk, maybe a female figure, hair long, hanging, eyes glistening in darkness. When the light struck her face, it seemed empty, no eyes, only dark voids. Megan screamed. The thing didn't move initially, just stared. Then it lurched forward, limbs bent at odd angles. She dropped the phone. It clattered. The whispering crescendoed. Why did you open the door? Why did you see me? Desperate, Megan rammed against the door. It gave way by a small crack, letting her escape. She bolted down the hallway, arms pumping, lungs burning, hearing footsteps behind her slow, dragging, the whisper chasing. She made it back to class. No one had heard anything. Mr. Dalton was speaking about the homework assignment. Megan, gasping, wide-eyed, claimed she'd tripped over something, hallucination from stress. No one pressed. She wrapped her arms tight around herself. Later that evening, she couldn't resist looking at the photo on her phone in the fleeting glow of the hallway light she'd captured. Only darkness, no figure, no sign of room 213. Weeks passed. Rumors spread about students hearing whispering behind that classroom door, even during lunch hour. A custodian reported the lights flickered in the hallway near that wing. Another student claimed to see a silhouette passing behind the cracked window panes of room 213. Then came the lockdown. One Friday afternoon, reports of an intruder nearby triggered school-wide lockdown. Students huddled in classrooms. In Mr. Dalton's class, Megan listened as the announcement came. Lock doors. No movement. Stay low. The lights dimmed, some flickered. And in that instant, Megan looked toward the hallway door next to the supply closet. There, through the narrow slit under the door, she saw white chalk dust spread across the floor, but no box, not even debris she'd thought she left behind. Then the whispering soft again. You know what I saw? She pressed into the wall, paralyzed. The classroom door shivered, though no one was near. When the all-clear came, Megan stood, shaky. She walked to room 213. The door, still slightly ajar, revealed nothing. Just the room as always. Desks aligned, chalkboard clean, supply closet where it should be. She turned to walk away. One final whisper, barely audible. You forgot me. You ever think you're safe, surrounded by people, only to realize you're more exposed than ever? Imagine this, a typical Tuesday afternoon at Dawson Middle School. The cafeteria is buzzing, the usual chaos of kids eating pizza, trading juice boxes, and laughing. It's loud, it's crowded, and it feels completely normal. The lights are a harsh fluorescent. The tables are long and wooden, and there are no windows to the outside world. Just a contained, noisy energy of hundreds of students. Suddenly, a fight breaks out near the serving counter. One boy shoves another. Insults are thrown. The crowd parts, someone yells, and things escalate fast. It's the kind of drama that happens in middle school. But then everything changes. A voice, cold and official, cuts through the noise over the PA system. Attention. Lockdown, lockdown. All students move to safe zones. Instantly, the atmosphere shifts from chaos to pure panic. The lunchroom monitors, a couple of teachers, start shouting orders. Students scramble for cover, diving under tables, pressing themselves against the walls. Some huddle together, others cry. A few older kids have the presence of mind to push heavy food racks against the main doors, creating a makeshift barricade. Then the back door to the cafeteria slams shut. No one's sure who closed it, a teacher, a student, or something else entirely. Julia Reyes, a 7th grader, had her back to that door. She could feel the tension in the room coiling up like a snake, a storm about to break. She looked towards the front, where the fight had started. One of the boys was on the ground now, the other one dragging him by his collar. A teacher was trying to pull them apart, but Julia's eyes caught something else. In the shadows behind the teacher, near the serving counter, a figure slipped past. It was so thin it looked almost skeletal, dressed in dark clothes. She couldn't make out a face. She blinked, thinking her mind was playing tricks on her. This wasn't a student. It wasn't a teacher. She nudged her friend Sarah. "Do you see that?" She whispered. Sarah, wide-eyed, just nodded. They both watched as the figure retreated into a corridor behind the kitchen, an area that was always off-limits. A moment later, a slow, scraping sound echoed from behind the kitchen door, the sound of metal dragging on tile. The monitors were still trying to calm everyone down. "Stay down. Do not open the doors. Do not look." But the scraping sound was getting closer. Julia heard faint footsteps circling the perimeter of the room. The PA system crackled to life again. "Remain in lockdown. Do not open doors for any reason." Then the lights overhead began to flicker, one by one, plunging sections of the room into darkness. Julia's heart was pounding so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. She pressed her cheek against the cold tile floor, trying to make herself smaller, and that's when she saw it again. During a brief flicker of the lights across the cafeteria, behind a row of benches, the same figure. It was pressing its pale face against the small glass window of the staff room. For a split second, Julia saw it clearly. The eyes were black, hollow pits. Its mouth was open, but no sound came out, or maybe a sound like faint static she could barely hear. Julia gasped, and the figure pulled back into the darkness. Suddenly, the kitchen door creaked open, just a sliver. A hand emerged thin and twisted, with long, gnarled fingers. It started to push the door open. A teacher near the kitchen finally saw it and let out a muffled scream before going silent. "Everybody stay sheltered." Another teacher yelled, trying to lock the internal doors. One of the monitors bravely shoved his body against the kitchen door, pushing it shut. The figure vanished behind it. A rush of stale, cold air washed over the room, and then nothing. Silence. The minutes stretched into what felt like an eternity. Julia counted 5 minutes, then 10. An hour could have passed. Eventually, the all clear was given. The lockdown was over. Everyone was herded into the gym for a debriefing. As she was leaving, Julia glanced toward the kitchen. The door was now locked from the inside. Staff refused to go in. When they finally did, they found nothing. No fingerprints, no disturbed items, no trace of anyone. The official story was that the fight had triggered a false alarm. Some kids whispered it was just a prankster, but the teacher who saw the face in the window was shaken. It was wrong, she insisted. Not human. Julia had managed to snap a blurry photo on her phone. Later, she zoomed in. On the very edge of the frame was a pale smudge. Magnified, it looked like a distorted face, with dark hair and those same empty eye sockets. That night, lying in bed, she heard a scratching at her window. Then 3 quick taps. Julia froze. She pulled the covers over her head and didn't dare to look. The next morning in class, she saw something that made her blood run cold. Scrawled in chalk on the blackboard were the words, "I watched you behind the glass." Julia never looked at the staff room window again. And from that day on, the school cafeteria always felt just a little bit colder whenever the kitchen door was left ajar. Travis High School was old brick facade, long corridors, echoes. In winter, the heating struggled. In summer, the AC roared. The gym was ancient, staged with heavy red curtains, locker rooms smelling of mildew. One night, a locked-down drill went badly wrong, so wrong that no one ever forgot the hours that followed. It was a drill scheduled late afternoon, just before dusk. All students were dismissed to their period classes. Then teachers were informed. At 5 p.m. sharp, the lights would go out in the wing of the school. Students were to move to designated safe zones, doors locked, lights off. It was practice, but practice during twilight, when shadows lengthen, when what-ifs seem more real. Travis was hosting a scholarship banquet in the auditorium, parents and guests milling by the stage. Meanwhile, the east wing, where the oldest classroom stood, was nearly empty. Many teachers had gone home. Students in that wing gathered in classroom 102, flanked by a teacher, Miss Harrow, to wait for the drill's start. At 5 o'clock, lights buzzed once, then died. Emergency lights flickered on, weak and reddish, casting long, unnatural shadows. The students huddled near walls. Miss Harrow asked everyone to shut blinds, put phones away, stand quietly. About 5 minutes in, a low tapping began. At first mild, like someone drumming fingertips on a radiator pipe. Then the tapping repeated faster, somewhere above in the ceiling vents. Students exchanged glances in dim red glow. Miss Harrow told them not to worry, probably caused by the building settling or a branch outside. Then one student, Jason, heard whispering from the vent. He crept closer, peering up through the metal grill. Something moved, dark, shifting, a shape thin and elongated, crawling above the ceiling rafters. Jason stepped back, heart slamming. Miss Harrow, something's up there. She frowned, flashlight in hand, shone it upward, through vent, I think. The beam caught nothing, but shadows flickered as though something was sliding across the rafters, unseen. Suddenly, there was a crash from across the hallway. Classroom 104's door burst open. Students in 102 screamed, hitting the floor. Miss Harrow jerked the door shut. No voices outside. Only dark. The PA system crackled. False, perhaps, but static, then garbled voice. Lock doors. Do not come out. Not part of the drill. It sounded panicked. Miss Harrow locked the door, pulled the bolt, turned off the flashlight. The red emergency lights glowed and flickered. More tapping now from the walls themselves. It sounded like nails against plaster. The vent above, the ceiling, somewhere inside. A shadow stretched across the old classroom wall like something melting into it. Students pressed their hands over their mouths. Jason's phone buzzed, but no notifications. He flicked it on. The screen lit with a message. I see you. He dropped it. It hit the floor, cracked. In the dim light across the hallway, something moved past the small window of Miss Harrow's classroom door. A silhouette, tall, slender, arms long, bent at the elbows. Miss Harrow stood, voice trembling, motioning students back. She moved to the door, peered out. Nothing but dark. Hallway lights off during drill. The occasional flash from emergency light down corridor. Then a soft sobbing. Distant, high-pitched, like a child crying. Coming from the old science lab at the end of the wing lab that hadn't been used for weeks. Miss Harrow froze. The students watched her fade nearer the door. She opened it, stepping out, flashlight in hand. The sobbing grew louder as she approached the lab door, handle cold against her palm. She raised it, pushed. Empty. Tables with rusted equipment. Chemical bottles covered in dust. Floor cracked tiles. The windows of the lab were thick with grime. The sobbing stopped abruptly. Silence. Then behind her a whisper, so close she could smell breath. "Why did you leave me?" She spun around, no one there. The emergency light flickered off briefly, a moment of pitch black. When light returned, the door slammed shut on its own. Locked. She yanked at knob, won't budge. Panic surged in the classroom, echoed down hallway. Jason banged on windows, shouted. No help came. Phones out, no service. Perhaps the old building blocked signals. They could only wait, hearts pounding. Time stretched for 20 minutes, half hour, a flimsy eternity. The sobbing from inside the lab started again, low and distant. Now a mix of sobbing and whispering voices, calling one by one. Travis. Travis, come back. When finally the lockdown was declared over, Ms. Harrow forced the door open. A teacher came running, lights reactivated. Students spilled into hallway, rubbing eyes. But something was wrong. Dozens reported a sense of dread. Several had scratches on their arms, although some said they weren't near anything that could scratch. Jason's phone. Cracked screen, but in the image gallery one photo, caught in the hallway outside lab, a pale child's face peering out from the darkness behind the glass. Eyes full of sorrow, mouth open in a silent scream. They checked the history. A student named Travis died there in an accident. From that night on, after lights out, students refused to stay in Wing 1 alone. And sometimes in the dead hours when power flickers, people swear they hear sobbing inside Lab 105 and a whisper, "Why did you leave me?"